Hey guys, kinggath here with another patch for Sim Settlements 2. This is patch 3.1.0, which I'm calling Allies and Armaments, and it is a huge patch. We've got a lot of new features, a lot of new quality of life improvements, bug fixes, and even some new voiced content. And before we get into all of that, I want to apologize for the sound of my voice and if I'm a little less focused than usual today because I have a really bad head cold right now. And second, we've got to thank our patrons. So huge shout out and thanks to Esme, Rasmus Wallstrom, Bill Kerwin, Corey Meggs, Jacob Allen, and Luana Caswell. Thank you guys all. And if you did sign up for Patreon recently and I didn't shout you out, I will very soon in the next video. Alright, let's talk more about this patch. So 3.10 is the first of many big content patches we have planned for SS2 after the launch of Chapter 3. And this one is no slouch in that department. We got a lot of new things to talk about. So the biggest change we made in this patch as far as a under-the-hood fundamental level was the change to the way loadouts and units work. So loadouts were when you would go and change an individual soldier's gear. So if we go to manage soldier here and wait for the options to come up and go to armory, and then we would go to change loadout here. So you can say this person is set up as a wasteland medic right now, but we can go in and change our different loadouts here. And previously the way loadouts were set up is if you wanted to keep them on the most powerful loadout for their particular rank, you would have to go manually equip them a new loadout every time that you did that, and that was very cumbersome. It would take a lot of micromanagement to keep all your soldiers in tip-top shape and make sure they had the best gear for their current rank. So that is now all automatic. And the way we did that is that now when you assign a loadout, you're effectively assigning a unit. So when you go to the recruitment radio, you get a list of the different units that you can recruit. So if we go to recruit soldiers here, you can recruit things like a civilian conscript, or I don't know why that showed up twice, or the wasteland assaulter, etc. And so now basically loadout and unit are effectively the same thing. So a unit basically defines a set of 5 loadouts. So when you assign somebody a loadout, air quotes, in the soldier menu, what you're actually doing is changing their unit type. That way when they rank up, they know about the other loadouts, so they can automatically equip the appropriate one for their rank. So that's the first benefit, is the automatic changing of loadouts. And the second is that it makes it very easy to queue up soldiers directly equipped with the loadout that you want in the role that you want based on the recruitment radio here, because it's the same thing, right? It's all the names are the same, as you're literally picking the same thing. So here we can pick in a wasteland shotgunner. It's the same wasteland shotgunner you would see from the loadout menu from the soldier, and now when that soldier gets recruited, they will just come equipped with the wasteland shotgunner loadout. So it's just a lot less micromanagement and a more similarity in terms, so you don't have to memorize a bunch of different things. So the unit type loadout, basically the same thing now, and that makes it easier for you guys to manage, and it's easier for our designers on the team to understand our system, and hopefully that will translate to the same for systems designers in add-on pack community who might want to add their own unit types. We did a big overhaul of our internal settings and for the documentation, got that up on the wiki so that people can add their own units into the system or their own loadouts, and make it nice and easy for putting out new add-on packs. So hoping to see a burst of that now with the new updates. Alright, so the next change that we did, if you go to the ranks and equipment on a quartermaster's key here and you go to configure ranks, you'll see that the default loadout is no longer there, because that no longer makes sense. Now instead of having a different loadout or unit type for each rank, now instead you basically just assign the soldier the unit type that you want, and then they will automatically upgrade their loadouts rather than it having to be done on a per rank basis. So it's as soon as they rank up, so if your soldier ranks up to rank 2, they will just automatically equip the appropriate new loadout for their rank. Hopefully that all makes sense. I know I've been using a lot of terms back and forth, but basically rank up, new gear automatically so that they're more powerful. Speaking of more powerful, one of the things that we commonly hear is that the soldiers are useless most of the time because most of your generic settlers have almost no hit points, and so they get drop really, really fast. So we've changed it so that default settlers, which are not level locked to the player like a lot of unique NPCs are, will now automatically have their health bumped by 100 points every time they rank up, including just by changing them into a soldier, they immediately get plus 100 health. So rank 1 soldiers right out of the box will be 100 health more than they were as a default settler, so it should help their survivability pretty significantly. And then you combine that with the gear upgrading automatically, and you should see your soldiers lasting a lot longer. So the next thing we did was added a uniform system. And the uniform system is a way for us to give a standard look to all of your soldiers. So you may have noticed that most of my guys were in green army gear, and I did not do that manually because that would be awful. It would be a pain to chase around and collect that kind of gear for everybody. Even though we have systems for it, we do have Dylan who will sell us all the gear we could need to do it. It just wouldn't be very fun to chase everybody down. So now we have this system where you can select a piece of Under Armor and it will automatically equip it to all of your soldiers with a few exceptions. So for example, when you have soldiers who have a loadout set that doesn't involve a bunch of overlaying armor. So for example, if you have somebody in our sniper outfit, our sniper outfit is like a particular long coat that wouldn't work well with the uniform, so it won't be applied. But for a lot of them, so for example, like this person I believe is an assaulter and this person is a shotgunner, that most of their gear for the loadout is actually overlaid stuff, so we can swap the uniform underneath. So it will take a moment because this particular save, I think it has like 300 soldiers. So it's currently going through and updating the uniform across all of them in all the different outposts. So it will take a moment, but we should see all of the green military fatigues switch over to, or military, I guess it's not fatigues, that would be I think it's the clean army outfit is what that was. It's like the pre-war army outfit. That should be swapped over for that flannel and jeans in just a few moments here. And so I just started to see some of the change. So you can see that it will happen underneath that armor. There we go. Starting to see people change over. So it's a great way you can have kind of a consistent look across all your soldiers. And just like the units and loadout system I mentioned can be added to via add-on packs, so too can uniforms. So if there are some mods out there or Creation Club or DLC content that adds some good Under Armor options, those can be added to support the uniform system as well, and that is documented on the wiki right now, so people can start putting out add-ons with more uniform options as well. Now, some of the later units that you unlock, the loadouts, won't work well with uniforms, but in the early game, it's a great way to get some consistent colors, and then also to make sure that then your special units will stand out more. Alright, so the next thing we can show you guys on the War Planner's desk before we shift gears to another area is the battle reports. So if you highlight over the inbox, and I can't recall if this only shows up on the War Planner's desk or if it also shows up on the inbox at HQ. We're going to go to HQ and I'll be able to check then, but the battle reports definitely shows up on the War Planner's desk. And if you click on this, it lets you view those post-battle reports. So for most of you, when you have it on by default, the little pop-up that comes up during cinematic mode at the end of a battle, which shows you the results, you can basically look at that information as a note report. So you can see we get the same type of information. We get our victory rating, tells us when the attack occurred, where it was at, who was involved in the battle, like who the aggressor was and who was defending, the kills, etc. And then we can also see, oops, I did not mean to click that button. I wanted to push next, and we can also see the spoils as well. So basically, you'll be able to view up to 128 past battle reports, and there are two advantages to this post-battle report system. One is that you'll be able to just see the post results of an assault that happened off camera for you. So if you decided not to come back and help some of your soldiers, not in the default vanilla battle system where it says like miscellaneous, like help Starlight Drive-In, and then it'll say like Starlight Drive-In defended themselves or failed or whatever. Not that system, but our system. We have our own battle system that happens where periodically your places can get attacked, and you may never know about it because if you don't have watchtowers and communication set up, it doesn't actually notify you, because we didn't want you to feel like you were supposed to be running around to all your settlements and never doing anything else. We want the battles to be happening in the background, and now you can find out about the results of those. So that's one advantage. And the second advantage is some people don't find the post-battle arcade style report to be very immersive, and so they may disable that, and so this is an alternate way to get access to that information. So the battle reports are a nice little quality of life thing, and especially useful to know about raids that happen to you off camera. All right, so now we're going to head over to HQ. So let's go here, and of course, if you haven't played through the HQ stuff, you're going to get some spoilers. If you haven't played through Chapter 3, you might want to cut the video here because I'm about to talk a lot about some of the Chapter 3 quest content stuff because it's related heavily to what I'm about to show. I can say without spoiling anything, one more thing would be that there is a new ally available. So if you've gotten the envoy system kicked in, Conquered will now show up as an option if you have completed up through the Harriet quest. So I think there's a couple of Alyssa's quests you don't have to do as part of the requirement, but everything else, I believe you have to do a quest for every one of the characters who shows up in Conquered, and then you will get access to them. You'll see Edmund show up as an envoy. Obviously, when it comes to the battle, Conquered not necessarily the most military faction, so maybe not your best option, but they're very flavorful. So one of the things that we did in this patch is we modified the way Call to Arms and Battle of Quincy run. Oh, speak of the devil, and we're getting on this particular save. He is there right now, waiting for us to do the ally meeting, which maybe I'll walk through and do. I do have voice disabled right now because it was distracting with all of the idols, but here we go. We'll go ahead and activate him here, and this is all voiced. It's just a matter of I have it silent right now, so spoiling a little bit of content for you guys if you haven't seen this yet, but this is what you can expect to happen, and I am going through this because I need him to be out of this room so that I can trigger this next thing I'm going to show you guys. But basically you will find that in the Battle of Quincy and the meeting leading up to it, I have changed the way they run so that they are injectable. So basically, not only can we add new characters and things on the fly, and we can inject unique characters into the battle system. So you'll find that with Conquered, instead of it just being all random people named Conquered Settler or something like that, you'll find that in some cases some of the characters from Conquered will show up in some of those roles. And we did all this because we want to, well, first of all, it's fun, but second of all, because we want to see other mods out there who have cool faction groups being able to inject their own flavor into the system. So, think things like America Rising or Fenn's Sheriff Department or the All-Americans, those sorts of mods that have these great groups that would make awesome allies during that sequence, that they will now be able to inject into that. And I have done all the documentation for it. So if you go check our wiki, if you are one of those folks, or if you want to poke those folks and let them know that I have put out that kind of documentation, it is available, and anybody can be injected as an ally. It doesn't even have to be groups. So for example, if you've played through our quest stuff, you'll know that characters like Wise show up as an option, and they're not actually a group that gets offered as an alliance, but what we use them for is like commanders. So for example, when you choose Wise during the battle sequence, he's basically given a squad of your HQ soldiers. And speaking of that, that's another change we can talk about. Whenever you choose HQ during the battle now, it will try and grab any of your military and security members instead of just creating new from scratch generic people named HQ soldiers. So you'll now start seeing some of your actual NPCs. Particularly, it's going to try and target the unique ones. So if you've got some unique characters set up in your military and security departments, you might see them participating in the battle directly. All just extra flavor bits, and we'll probably continue to look for ways we can enhance and inject more of that so that it feels like the things you're doing throughout your playthrough actually have an impact on the major story events. Alright, so the next thing I want to show you guys is something that we're calling advisor meetings, and Jake actually tells you about this idea, and then we failed to deliver on it because the system wasn't quite ready. We had it mostly ready, but needed to delay it a little bit because I wanted it to be injectable for the same reason that the battle can actually have mods inject characters, so too can this advisor system I'm going to show you guys. So previously, when you activated this little console, and it would only happen after you had completed the quest, A Faction is Born, you would get a little pop-up about ideology. And now that's still available, but there's one extra step, because we don't want ideology to just be like a menu setting. It's not meant to just be like a simple thing you change willy-nilly. It's supposed to be a thing you think about, you set, and then you move forward. So it's kind of setting the morality of your faction. And so now when you go to access this, you're actually going to call an advisor meeting instead. So when we go ahead and do this, what's going to happen is it's going to take all of your HQ folks, so your department heads, as well as the various groups that you've allied with, like we just allied with Edmund, and it's going to bring those leaders to HQ and have them set up a meeting with you, so you actually get to hear what their thoughts are on the changes you make in ideology. So I don't know what particular people this one has allied on this save, but here we go. So we can see we've got our department heads. Looks like this particular playthrough has chosen the Institute, but we've got Preston there, we've got Fiona, we've got Edmund, Sickle, we've got NLTC, CPD, and then of course we're going to get our pop-ups about ideology. So basically we wanted to make the ideology thing feel more significant, so it's not just like a quick little menu pop-up. Now you take a little time, you go into these meetings, and then when we select one, so if we go into here and we choose a setting, so let's go to let's see here, we'll go to prisoners. Let me see here, I'm trying to think of a good one that I know. Yeah, this seems fine. Civilian defense expectations. Civilians should leave combat to soldiers. So let's change that to civilians should always join the fight. Alright, so now it's going to change it so that our settlers. And then you'll see that various people will comment on what they feel about that. Now, you don't have to listen to them. It's just getting you some flavor to see how everybody feels about that. Some people are going to be opposed to it. Some people are going to be in favor of it. Some people will be very in favor of things or very opposed to them. And it's up to you to decide whether you want to listen to them or not. And then one of the things that this is going to play out for over time is as additional allies get added, we will be able to have groups of advisors that lean more toward a direction or not. So for example, characters like Sickle really want everyone to fight, so that makes a lot more sense. And because we made everything injectable, some of those groups that we could have from add-on packs or from other mods that and I apologize, this is the cold kicking in and derailing me. So what I'm trying to say is that if another mod injects their faction may be in favor of different things than the majority of these characters. And then over time, the group of allies that you agree to could lean more toward the type of faction that you're making. So we're letting the player have total freedom here. There's currently no consequence to choosing policies that maybe alienate particular factions. We may add that in the future, but for now we just wanted maximum player freedom, so they can do what they want. And you can kind of RP it by declining the allies that don't agree with you very much. And we may in the future add an expel system to be like to allow the player to expel an ally, to be like, hey, you don't line up with the vision we're going for. Or perhaps it's also been discussed internally of doing a thing like having, if you have a score in a direction that clashes too much with a faction, they may quit eventually. That may come in some future update. For now, it's very flavor. This is all just about flavor, and to make sure that the ideology decisions feel like they're a big deal. This isn't like a quick thing. Now, one other little feature about this particular thing is after you make a decision, you can actually, if you're not sure what someone said, you can actually go talk to them again. And it should tell you it should repeat their last thing. And I think each one, they have a couple of different examples. So, for example, if they like something, there's a couple of different lines they might say if they like it or if they dislike it. And it's a pretty involved system. And again, other mods can inject into this, and they can decide for each policy and each decision within that policy how their faction would care about it. So really excited to see if some mods out there take advantage of these systems and inject their own characters and thoughts and beliefs into the system so that we can make this thing feel comprehensive and whole. And you can also inject other people's things. So for example, if you have ideas for how a faction might react and maybe the mod author is not interested in integrating, it actually can be done you could do it on your own. You could do it as a mod. You would just have to repurpose voice files that they already had for those lines, which might be a challenge. So ideally, it would be the mod authors themselves would be the ones putting this together. But just throwing some ideas out there, because I think this system has the potential for a lot of late game payoff and a great way for some various mods involving groups to collaborate. All right, and then when you're done with the advisor meeting, simply hit end meeting and it will bring you back. So one of the ways we did this, technically speaking, is it's actually in a clone of a small version of the GNN cell. You can imagine that with the amount of NPCs you have in your HQ cell, it could make the game very unstable. So instead, when you do those meetings, it's in a sub-cell that just has those characters there. So sorry if I'm showing you how the sausage is made and ruining the magic, but we wanted to make sure that it was stable. So a lot of it only will show the characters that are in there, since you can't really leave the room during it anyway. It's hard to tell. And we recently fixed the lighting. I don't know if it was this patch or the last patch where we fixed the lighting in our clone cell of the meeting room to make sure that it looks the same as your actual HQ. So I think the last thing that I don't think I covered, and maybe I did, but I've done like 6 takes of this video now because I am slowly dying from this head cold. The other big thing that we added that I didn't really demonstrate is that there are a ton of new units. So depending on which characters you allied with during those envoy meetings, like the one I just showed you with Edmund, you will have had the envoy tell you about some benefits that they can provide, and we've started to deliver on some of those benefits for real. So initially when we launched, it was all just flavor, other than they would show up during the Battle of Quincy and they would bring some of those things to bear. But now, in addition to Battle of Quincy, they will have those units that they mentioned, or even some that they didn't, will show up in the recruitment radio for you to access. Now, I don't know at the time of this recording if they require a HQ unlock or not, or if you have to do something. There will be an unlock pop-up though, it'll explain it. So my apologies, I don't do everything in the mod anymore, so I've lost track of all specifics of how it actually works, but just know that you'll have access to a lot of new units after you do those ally meetings now. So for example, if you ally with the Brotherhood, you will suddenly be able to get Brotherhood Paladins in your military. You'll be able to get Brotherhood soldiers as your recruit options, things like that. You'll be able to basically customize and add some units from these ally factions into your normal rank and file soldiers to augment your military. So you can have quite a ragtag bunch of people, or you can go all in on one particular faction. It's totally up to you. Some of the more powerful units, we balanced out their costs, so you might find that the assault costs and the recruitment costs are a lot higher when you use those particular soldiers in your army. So it'll be something that you don't choose to do early game. It'll be something when you've got most of your resources needs covered and you're fairly rich in the late game, which shouldn't take too long with all the various systems we have available for getting access to the supply resources. But know that you should be able to create a pretty impressive army now after this patch, between the loadout unit changes and the tons of new recruitable units that you should find available to you in the later part of the game. Alright, so I think that covers all the patch notes. As I mentioned before, make sure you read the wiki for the full load of patch notes between my head cold and just the plethora of things we've got in this patch. I'm sure I missed some important stuff, so please go read those notes for all those details. Again, I'll reiterate, if you are a mod author, an add-on author, and you're interested in incorporating your stuff in with ours, or if you want to see more unit types and loadouts available, the system is super open-ended and the documentation is updated. I'll have that linked below. We've got some new in-depth tutorials on how you can add new content into SS2, especially the Chapter 3 mechanics. Alright, and then of course, last thing we like to do with all of these patch videos, if you stuck around this long and listened to my rambling, then you may be interested in getting some loot. So every patch, I'm going to give away some money toward Sim Settlements merchandise. I just need you to leave a comment below with a hashtag and some sort of comment. Leave something interesting for me to read, not just the hashtag. Maybe you want to tell me a bug report, tell me a funny story about the mod, something you love about the mod, something you hate about it, whatever. Just something more than just this hashtag, so I have something to read when I'm collecting all these. So, oh, and of course, some means of contacting you. See, I'm really dying. I'm fading out fast, guys. Some means of contacting you, whether it be your Nexus username or some Settlements forum username. And that hashtag today is hashtag more add-on packs, because we'd love to see more of them, especially with all these new potential features. All right, guys, I'm going to go die now. Take care and enjoy the mods.